Thanks for coming. Today, initially when we scheduled the press conference was in regards to really our schedule. We did a small release party for some people earlier this week, and I didn't really want to get bogged down in a lot of details there, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions about our schedule, so I figured we'd just kind of have a presser to talk a little bit about that and obviously other things around the program. It's something that maybe I should have done or we should have done prior to this point. But like I've said to a few people, I really didn't want to get in the way of the football opener last weekend. I felt like it was their turn in the news cycle, and I didn't really want to creep in on that with a bunch of basketball scheduling news. It got a little complicated. The best way I can kind of explain it is this without getting into too many details. We have 28 games currently scheduled, and we have filed waivers to play more than that. We can play currently up to 29, and we have a waiver file to actually play 30, which would be to add 2 more current games to our schedule. And there is an outside chance, if we wanted to, we could schedule up to 31. That would require another waiver and another team, which currently we are not in any kind of deep negotiations with. But there's a lot of teams around the country right now filing different waivers and trying to get creative with the end of their schedules. And we're in conversations with those teams relatively frequently. I believe it's September the 17th is a hearing date that the NCAA has put on all these different teams to basically hear their waivers, which is obviously not a ways away, but decently amount of time away. So none of us really feel great about waiting that long. And a lot of us have kind of contacted our conference offices to see if they can maybe help us. I did contact the Mountain West about, maybe being able to speed that up so we can get more resolution to this. But I think it's just a new era that the NCAA is working through with regards to the complexity of MTEs and amounts of games. And once they started kind of granting some waivers, I think a lot of teams just assumed they could file waivers. And now, they're kind of working through that, and we're in the middle of that. If we wanted to be done tomorrow, we could. We could schedule a game, be at 29, and be done. But right now, we're aiming to get to 30. That would get us an additional home game, and then ideally an additional, what I would call a neutral site game. And tentatively right now, we're looking at doing that game in Hobbs. So if everything goes according to the current plan, we will add 1 home game to our schedule, and then we would add a neutral site game in Hobbs. There is a very, very slim chance we would add an additional game onto that based on all these other teams that are also filing waivers and needing games. And if the right team came along, until our schedule gets finalized, I really wouldn't say no. I do love the 28 we have scheduled. We'll probably put those up here at some point soon so people can see them. I didn't want to confuse everybody. There's some teams that have put up their schedules and then changed opponents or changed dates and made new releases on all the changes they've been doing as it's been unfolding. And I just thought that was a little messy, so I didn't go ahead with that. But I think we've also kind of reached a point in time where we just need to kind of maybe put out what we do have and then just be as open about where things are and where they're kind of going from here. So I think we will put out something here shortly and then maybe explain a little bit of that in the release. I just didn't want to kind of confuse the public on whether it was done or not done or whatever. And that was really the intent of this press conference, just to kind of put a little bit of that stuff to bed. I love how we've put it together. I talked a little bit about it. I know media's already kind of covered it. I thought Nevada and even, our conference even talked to us that, Nevada put together kind of the perfect schedule, and we tried to mimic that as much as we could this year. I think last year we played 8 teams with above a 240 RPI. I think this year it's 5, and we've really tried to kind of put our schedule in the best shape we could to where on Selection Sunday, if a conference tournament doesn't happen to go our way, that we would still have a chance to go play at the NCAA tournament. And that was the goal of us kind of putting it together, and that's kind of where it stands. So I do have some other things I just want to kind of go through before I open it up to questions. We are going to do a cherry and silver game again this year. The intent is to do it on October the 19th. It's not we went through this kind of last fall. The Howl is still independent of this, whether this is in lieu of it or in addition to it. Those are still things we're working out. And even the Cherry and Silver game, we're kind of working out some details because Johnson Gym's obviously undergoing some renovations right now, so it won't be there. So it'll probably be here. I'd like to have a charitable component to it, a community-oriented component to it, and a season ticket holder component to it right now. And we're just kind of working through some of those details, but that could come out here at some point soon. I didn't want that to kind of be a surprise, so we're looking at doing a Cherry and Silver game. We will also be releasing a high school coaches clinic. It might not just be high school coaches, but we're going to do a coaching clinic here in October the 6th. I don't know if it's been done here before, but just in the camps we've had in the summer and my interactions with a lot of the local high school programs and coaches, I really wanted to kind of do something for them where they can kind of feel a part of it. I would have loved to do something like this last year, but quite honestly, I just never found the time. But now I've been here a year and kind of got some legs underneath me. I really wanted to do something for the local community. I was a high school coach once, it meant a lot to me when I got to grow and develop as a high school coach and learn from other people. And hopefully we can even just do a sliver of that for some coaches in the community, just to allow Albuquerque basketball or just kind of regional basketball to grow. And we've set up a really cool clinic with a lot of different types of speakers that make it my kind of clinic, with sports psychologists and analytics people and coaches and stuff like that hopefully we can expose to some coaches and allow them to kind of grow as well. There'll also be something coming out shortly on a joint program with the APD. We're looking at being a part of their VIN etching program. We had several members of the APD come and speak to our team. I believe it was last week, might have been the week before, and just talked about kind of creating some partnerships between their organization and ours. I know football kind of started something which I thought was terrific, and really the gist of it to our guys from me was, just kind of a civic responsibility to help our community and whatever we can kind of do to help the APD in their jobs. And this VIN etching program seems like a really cool idea, the way they kind of framed it to us, that it will help with auto thefts in our community, and to actually do something that's like a tangible benefit to our community was more important to me than necessarily just something more kind of PR oriented. So I think they're handling the release. The APD will probably do something at some point, but we're really excited to kind of do that. I do want to mention the Pitt Suites renovation topic, which kind of has become a hot topic here since the Regents meeting. Without getting too into details, and I'm sure there'll be some follow-up questions, at no point did I ask, or anyone that I was aware, ask for $2 million or ask for anything substantial in this project. The extent that I'm really have been concerned with was going down the road of exploring the idea and trying to figure out who may make the decision on something like that. And that's something that I've spent however many months trying to do. There was never a distinct move to make this decision or spend any money or do anything like that. And I think, obviously sometimes these things can kind of get carried away a little bit, and that was never the intent. That was never something I kind of desired. And I get maybe some frustration. I've kind of heard some things like everybody has, like, oh my gosh, how can they be doing this right now, et cetera, et cetera. And I totally empathize with that thought process. I would never intend to harm those people. Anyone that took me asking permission to look into those things in an offensive way, you have my sincerest apologies. I think, there's a lot of things that have gone on around UNM and athletics that have been polarizing in ways. And the last thing I would ever want to be is a polarizing figure here or a divisive person in some way. I think as coaches, we get blinders on sometimes, and we're just doing what we can for the best interests of our program or our team or whatever. And maybe as I went down that road, I didn't remove enough of those to maybe think about everything. And as we continue to go down that road, if that sentiment becomes kind of paramount, I have no problem admitting, hey, maybe it wasn't the greatest idea, and we'll move in another direction. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong or when I've gone down a road that isn't in the best interests of a lot of different things. And this would be included in that process. I'm hopefully going to continue to come up with new ideas and creative things that will make our program better. Not every one of them is going to work. Where this actual project goes, I have no idea. But I just wanted to convey to people that, there was never any money demanded or asked of in this process that I'm really aware of, or that was a concrete part of this process. It was me just exploring an idea. And that's where it kind of continues to remain. I have not really received any feedback as far as who even would approve or kind of deny that. So that was just that. I'm sure there'll be some follow-up questions on that. As far as our roster goes, I know there's questions there too. Matt Vale will not be an active member of our team this year as a student athlete. He is going to continue in our program. Matt has shown an affinity to maybe be a coach one day, and we kind of both decided that maybe it would be a better avenue for him to kind of get into coaching a little bit. So Matt's going to be around our program. He's going to help with our program. He's already doing some kind of video stuff and kind of interning, I guess, so to speak. And hopefully that'll lead to a long and successful career for him as a coach one day. And I'm really kind of happy for him. Carlton Bragg, there's kind of two prongs to it. One will be the NCAA side of things, where we're still in the waiver process, where we're waiting to hear back from the NCAA as far as whether he'll be eligible on November the 6th or most likely December the 16th. And December the 16th is a little bit of a gray date because from my understanding, in order to be eligible at semester, all your grades from the previous semester have to be posted. And once that happens, then you would be eligible second semester. So our exam week will finish that, I think that's that 14th of December, meaning as long as when the exams are done and professors put grades in and everything would go according to plan, he would be eligible to compete on December the 16th. If for whatever reason those grades aren't finalized, then that would push back to whatever date happens to come after that. That's him from an NCAA perspective. There's obviously internally a lot of conversations and things I've talked about with Carlton when he came here, to where I was going to allow him to be a full member of our team independent of anything that ever went on with the NCAA. And he has fulfilled many of those. There's one kind of small one left that we're all kind of waiting on for him to finish. He knows what that is. And once he kind of gets that done, he could be added to the roster within the next 48 hours, within the next 3 weeks. I really don't know. But he's very, very close. He had a great summer in the classroom. He's done all the things off the court that I've asked him to do. There's just some on-court things, or one on-court thing we're just kind of waiting to kind of clean up. And then he could get added sometime soon. So that's Matt. That's Carlton. We did do our first real team practice yesterday, as far as just kind of introducing them to that. The first 2 weeks have been really heavy in the weight room, really heavy training-wise, and the advice really from my strength coach and our trainers has been to kind of let them get through that first couple weeks just for risk of injury. And we do spend a lot of time discussing these guys' health and well-being and making sure that we're obviously training hard or training in a certain way, but we're also making sure that we're never going to put them in a situation where they have an increased susceptibility to injury. So for the first 2 weeks, a lot of our basketball workouts have been one-on-one or not necessarily live. They've been kind of untaped kind of workouts. But yesterday was our first real one where we taped and went live. We kind of got past that 2-week threshold, and those will kind of increase as we go forward from here, and their bodies, I think, get adjusted to kind of how we're training and kind of the things that we're doing. We're just excited about the season, and I've felt that way since I've got here, as far as the people within our program have always maintained a great energy about them, a great enthusiasm about them, and I would never want that to change. This year's different than last year. We know we have expectations. We know the community has expectations, and I think we all look forward to that in some way. This is why we do what we do. This is why student athletes came here to play basketball in this program. It's why I came here to coach, to kind of take on the challenge of Lobo basketball and, meeting all the expectations that people have. And fortunately, the community, I think a year ago was maybe waiting to see how I was going to be or we were going to be. And fortunately, a year into that, I think they're already starting to respond. I think last year going into the season, we had 16 lower level Lobo seats available, and right now we're down to 2. And I'm hopeful we'll sell that out potentially in September, where there isn't going to be a lower level Lobo seat available to get a ticket to our game at, and we've sold new suites, and we're doing things that hopefully show that the community is deciding to respond. Our season ticket sales are up over where they've been in the past. It's tough to concretely gauge because we have new season ticket sales, which is great, but our renewals are kind of difficult to gauge based on when those finally get concluded and how we're doing. But overall, at this point last year to this year, I'm going to ballpark, but I think we're up 500 or 600 seats. So when you couple that with the lower level Lobo and buying new suites, it makes me feel good that people in the community are saying, you know what, we're interested in Lobo basketball, or at least there's an increased interest in Lobo basketball. Now it's up to me, it's up to Vance, it's up to Quach, it's up to all of us to go out and really produce and really win over, that entire community. And whoever may still be sitting on the sidelines for whatever reasons that they have, hopefully we'll be able to sell them to say, you know what, I believe in these guys, or I want to go to the Pit, or I want to go to Lobo basketball games again, and really make our season and the Pit the place that we all kind of want it to be. So that's kind of the whole deal. I'll take any questions if we have them.
So those 28 games, are they set in stone?
They are set in stone. They are contracted. They are ready to rock. The reason I haven't put them out is because I didn't want to put it out without all of them being up there and maybe causing confusion. And Tulane, Arizona, there's a lot of schools you kind of research, and they're making a release saying, well, such and such game was switched. We're not playing this team anymore, we're playing this team, or this is no longer happening, or this event we were supposed to be going to and now we're going there. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just thought I didn't necessarily want to do that. I'd like to get as much of it done, or get it done, to say, hey, here's the schedule. There's no changes, there's no adjustments, there's no confusion. This is who we're playing and this is when we're playing them. And then as we got kind of closer to that first football game, I thought, you know what, let's wait, let football get through, and then after that, let's just kind of release maybe what we have and how we have it, and then just be honest about where it unfolds from there.
Does this include the D2 school that you manage?
Sure. So opening weekend, which would be November the 10th, we are going to do the New Mexico Classic again. The difference is this year, that game for us will be an exhibition game. So last year we made it a regular season game. This year we're going to make it an exhibition game. And those teams underneath us will still play. Our contract for that weekend is done. The remainder of kind of the in-state schools and all that is not quite done, but we'll release that tournament once we kind of have all the logistics kind of finalized.
I know this is something I've kind of mentioned to you, but expectations magazines are coming out.
Yep.
You're going to start getting the rollout of where you're picked. How are you approaching in year two expectations that are coming from the outside? You're predicted today to be a number one seed in the NIT from a guy who does an NIT bracket, which would actually put you guys probably then in about the 35th area in the country, which would be an improvement. And you guys haven't been to the postseason in 4 years. Are expectations like that good things? Is it an NCAA bust, or do you not address them at all?
That's a great question, and probably one I still need to kind of think a little bit about. Last year, based on where we were picked, when I first started going through the summer and the fall, and I was re-emphasizing where everyone was picking us. We had some picking us last, some picking us second last, all the rankings, how bad we were going to be. I started communicating that to the team, and then as I started to go down that process, I kind of felt like maybe it was too much, and maybe that would affect our confidence, and maybe I didn't want that to become its own self-fulfilling prophecy. So I kind of adjusted on the fly and kind of took my foot off the gas on that a little bit and said, let's just kind of go out and be the best we can be. And quite honestly, that's where I'm at right now. Let's not worry about how high we're picked or necessarily how low we may have been picked or whatever those things may be. Let's just go out and be the absolute best we can be. Let's put together a really good schedule. Let's be competitive. Let's win as many games as we can. And then on Selection Sunday, let's hope we're sitting in really good shape.
Along those lines, though, 1 year ago right now, would you believe that McQuatch would be on the cover of a National College Basketball magazine?
I don't even know if McQuatch was here by now last year. He was a very, very last-minute addition. I'm happy for Quach. I'm happy for Vance. I'm happy for every single one of our players. I'm torn between I really believe in a team-oriented philosophy. That's our style. That's what I believe in for an organization. Like, I want our team to really be about team, and I get torn between how much I should sit up here and praise individuals, maybe at the expense of others or expense of a team. And that's hard. It's a real battle that I have, because I care for Quach and I care for Vance, and I want them both to be incredibly successful, but I don't want to start to propel that in a way that maybe would hurt another individual's success in our team or their own ability. But obviously McQuach had a tremendous freshman year. He moved to the wing here this summer, and I think he would admit and I would admit that first 3 or 4 weeks was rough, and we didn't know if that first 3 or 4 weeks was going to turn into 3 or 4 years. But it really ended up being 3 or 4 weeks, and he's been tremendous ever since. And the expectations that I have for him, and I think he probably has for himself, are pretty high. This is not a situation where we're expecting him to plateau or take a step back because we have other players. He's had a terrific summer learning to play on the wing, and I look forward to that process with him, because I feel confident that he's actually going to do well at it.
Along the lines of expectations, obviously year 2 got more guys in, your system's in place, you got higher ticket sales, season ticket sales. Do you feel a little bit more pressure to win this year?
I think I put more pressure on myself every day than probably anybody externally ever could. So I don't necessarily feel a ton of that. I'm more excited. I worked my tail off last summer and last fall on marketing, on sales, on recruiting, on all these other things. And I get why people stood on the sidelines a little bit. It was a new guy. He was relatively inexperienced. He was an unknown. There was a lot going on, outside of just basketball. And I get why maybe people just kind of said, I don't know yet. So to see them coming around, to me, is I'm much more excited than I am maybe feeling any kind of pressure. That people are responding with tickets, and they are responding in recruiting, and we are responding overall, because it makes me feel good, like maybe we're on the right track to some things.
What is the fail-safe date that you have to know, I need 2 games, I've got to get it by this date?
That's probably a fan thing more than it's a me thing. And like I said, right now, the waiver date that the NCAA is hearing all these waivers with I think it's like a competition committee, is I believe it's September the 17th. I know other schools waiting for those same waivers have contacted their conference office for maybe some help. I've done the same thing. I'm looking into other options that maybe might not be down that black and white road. Maybe there's other ways we could finish it up quicker. And like I said, right now we could finish it. I could say, hey, we're going to go play this game in Hobbs and be done, or we're going to add this home game and be done. But I'd like to potentially add both, and that's what we're trying to do. We're gonna try and hit for a home run, and if we happen to miss, then we'll just pick one and be done with.
Looking for that Power 5 team that you go play on the road?
Potentially, and that was a waiver that someone else actually submitted to play us, and that didn't end up coming to fruition immediately. Is there an option that could still happen? It could.
Nevada sold out their season tickets. What was your reaction when you saw that?
I didn't know that, but I'm impressed. And what Nevada's doing right now is setting an incredible bar for me to meet, and they're doing the kinds of things that I'm hoping we're going to do here. Right now, they're a little bit ahead of us in some ways. They're ahead of us in attendance, or ahead of us in rankings, and it's my job, it's their job. Like we got to go catch them. You know what I mean? How quickly we can do that, I don't know. I hope it's this year. If it happens to leak into future years, that's okay too. But right now, they've set an incredible bar on the court, off the court, and hopefully we're gonna do that exact same stuff here to make our community feel to sell out the pit as well.
People can get pretty emotional when it comes to spending money at the school,
Yep.
especially with everything that happened this summer. Would you rather that the word had never gotten out about potential renovations to this place?
The way it's kind of gone publicly, yes. I wouldn't, because if I read what they read, I probably would have the same reaction. When I started these conversations, and even to the meeting I went to, I never broached those numbers. I've never broached even like the definitiveness of it. It was more like, hey, who do I talk to? This is something I'm looking into. I'm an open-minded, creative person, and maybe that's going to get me into trouble sometimes. So maybe me exploring this idea put me in a bad light to some people. I apologize to them. That was never anything I intended on doing. I don't want to be that. I don't want me or Lobo basketball to be that polarizing thing. I'd rather it be more of a community-oriented thing. And if me just even now seeing the reaction to that based on not really what I intended, but what I did, is that, then we'll put the brakes on and we'll adjust and move on accordingly. I hope I'm not that kind of stubborn of a person, or I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I have no hesitation admitting when I've made a mistake or I'm wrong. And if that's how this ends up playing out, then so be it.
I'm sorry, the game in Hobbs, would that be in the Lee County Convention Center, or would it be at the high school?
Those are conversations we've had. At the moment, the intent, the convention center, from my understanding, we have some issues with court issues. There's obviously New Mexico Junior College. I've talked to their athletic director, and then we've obviously talked to Hobbs High School as well. We're discussing kind of the benefits probably of each one, the cost benefit of each one. Hobbs High School to me would be really, really cool in a lot of ways. And to me, that would be a neat game to be a part of. What cost does that come with? I've got to kind of, analyze compared to the other two options, both in money, in experience, in community, in all those other layers, in safety, like you name it. Those are all kind of things we're kind of thinking about.
To be clear on the Pit Suite thing, I know what the reaction's been because I wrote the article and I've gotten some of the reaction.
Yeah.
Are you saying there was anything wrong in the story there? Anything factually incorrect in the story?
No, not at all. Yeah, like if I was at that meeting, there's a $2 million figure out there that was brought up at the meeting, not by me, and someone reporting on a $2 million figure is very accurate. The inaccuracy that may get discussed, that I've not read anywhere directly, would be that I asked for a $2 million renovation, and that's nothing I ever would have intended to do.
McGee, talking about players now, I remember like a long time ago, you had mentioned about McGee when he gets here, you're hoping that maybe he might be the point guard, but
yep.
Gosh, he got here so late. Is that going to screw things up, you think? Is that still going to give you time since he got here at the
Yeah, I mean, I think for every player we have on our team, you want them to be the best they can possibly be. So my expectations for Keith are probably pretty high. Where he's currently at remains to be seen. He does. He's going to have to figure a lot of things out. He's brand new to this level, to how we do things, to the demands, and we're really early in that process, and it's difficult. The one thing about Keith that is going to give him a little bit of wiggle room is just how perfect of a fit for us that he is. We had a lot of different point guards last year that played the position that to varying degrees fit some things we were doing and didn't fit other things we were doing. Keith fits everything that we do. So if he's still working through a little bit of a process to kind of get acclimated, and there's some ups and downs with that might be offset a little bit because he's such a dynamic player in how we play defensively and how we play offensively. He's just perfect for how we play. So how that works itself out, will remain to be seen, but I'm excited for that process.
Have you had any of the newcomers wow, I didn't realize it was going to be like this?
I'll let these two comment on how some of those guys are doing. I think they've had some of their moments for sure. There's some guys we've had to, to be honest with you, and I've had this meeting with the team, like when Carlton first got here, we had to say, guys, Carlton can't go all in right now. We need to worry about his safety. Jaquan was the same way. Zane is the same way right now, where if you just throw them 100% into everything we're doing, there's a safety risk potentially involved, and there's a lot of things, and I'd rather kind of bring them along more slowly. And I think to a varying degrees, everyone's probably felt that way. You can talk about it, but then to actually go through it physically and mentally is another step.
One more.
And off the beaten path, but
Yeah.
a couple months ago, you guys put something on Instagram with black uniforms. Is there any huge change to the uniforms this year?
No, we will not wear black uniforms. Last year I think we just pared it down to the 2. We added turquoise. We are exploring an additional uniform right now, but that's right now we're just the basics: cherry silver and a turquoise, and there might be an additional one, but it won't be black. There won't be black uniforms.
That N7 game is still on this year?
The N7 game is on. The N7 game is on. I think we've talked about the different dates, but I don't know if that's been finalized. When the schedule maybe gets released, and it may have been finalized, but I'm not 100% sure right now.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.